Joining us now, allergies are killing me this season. The Washington Post senior national political correspondent and MSNBC political analyst Ashley Parker, and staff writer with The Atlantic and MSNBC political contributor Mark Leibovich. Ashley, 32 days to go. We see both candidates in swing states. What do you see as the most important question each one of them has to try to answer for voters for the next month?
I mean, that's a great question. And it's sort of what's stunning to me when you say voters is how small the group of voters they are trying to answer that question for is. And those universe of persuadable voters don't exactly look quite similar, although they are both trying to win over younger voters, that's defined as under 50, and those skew in both campaigns more heavily male. So for someone like Vice President Harris, a lot of things we hear voters say about her is they want to know more about her. And in talking to a ton of experts, part of that they say can be sort of a latent subconscious sexism or bias that female candidates are held to a different bar and different standard than their male counterparts. And part of that, they say, actually, in this case, is very legitimate because nobody pays attention to vice presidents, regardless of who they are. And so she came on the scene as the top of the ticket very recently. So she does need to answer, who is she? What is her plan? What is she going to do to help the lives of Americans? And for Donald Trump, it's a little different. What people like and also what they deeply dislike about him is baked into the cake. So some of what he has to do is less answering a question and more not reminding, again, this very small but determinative sliver of voters of everything they don't like about him, the chaos, the insults, the name calling, the sort of dark dystopian vision and revenge that he's promising to wreak on his political opponents. He needs to steer clear of that as much as he needs to answer an affirmative question.
You know, Peggy Noonan had an interesting article on this today, what each candidate, what each voter or supporter of each candidate should be worried about. And she mentions Donald Trump and, you know, the chaos and the seemingly losing his grasp on things even further, the lies. Speaking of lies, let me play for you what Donald Trump said about FEMA and where the money went, where the money is yesterday. Let's listen.
We had the best 4 years with hurricanes. We took care of people. Now we have a horrific disaster in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and Virginia. That's how big this hurricane was. And the Harris-Biden administration says they don't have any money. They've spent it all on They spend all of their money. They have almost no money because they spent it all on illegal migrants. They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season.
We had the best 4 years with hurricanes. What a strange thing to say. Also, I think you would ask the people of Puerto Rico how they did with a hurricane when Donald Trump was in office and that recovery effort. That being beside the point, this idea, this lie, Mark, that FEMA doesn't have any money. The administration has said this is not true. There's no evidence to suggest it's true. Where does he get this stuff from?
No, I mean, he just makes it up. I mean, it's lies. I mean, you called it out. I mean, I think what's interesting about this is not to sort of, I mean, you know, obviously lies like this, which are so egregious, there need to be called out. But I think the larger point is he's walking into the middle of, you know, one of the most affected states in a catastrophic natural disaster. And he is basically, perpetrating the message that this is terrible. The federal government is, I mean, he's undermining this relief effort in every way, shape, or form. I mean, you can tell, by the way, Kemp has himself talked about this in the last few days. Tom Tillis, the senator from North Carolina. I mean, this is not making anyone's job on the ground easier. It's not making the political situation certainly look functional at all. And I think in some ways, Ashley mentioned sort of the latent message here. I mean, this is a reminder of a chaos agent going right into the middle of an inherently chaotic situation, which is a natural disaster of this magnitude. And that is the exhaustion that Donald Trump, I think, could be his biggest his biggest obstacle here. I mean, just the weariness of what this looks like when leadership of some kind is needed. And frankly, look, I mean, most people don't have immediate recall or immediate knowledge of what is a lie and what is true. I mean, they're going to look at a person of authority like Donald Trump, and they're going to be inclined, I think, in many cases, to believe it. I mean, so that's unfortunate on a lot of levels, but it's how he operates, and it's not a new story.
Yeah, and maybe they won't go to a news source to try to figure out if it is true. They won't bother to do that. Speaking of Peggy Noonan, she also has an assessment of Harris, and I think this one is interesting. She says Harris still hasn't given voters a satisfying sense of what she is about, what the purpose of her political career is. She hasn't fleshed out her political intent, what she stands for, what she won't abide, what she means to establish, and what she won't let happen. What is her essential mission? Is it national repair? Is it destabilize an uncertain country? Is it relaunch? Is it more from the top for the bottom, period? Is it America as defender of democracy in the world? Is it about focusing now first and until something works on the high daily cost of living? When things can't be reduced to their essentials, it's because they're not real. There's nothing to reduce. She so far hasn't conveyed a sense of intellectual grasp. It's harsh from Peggy Noonan, certainly. Do you agree with this? Do you think that people do understand why she wants to be in office and what her goals are, Mark?
I mean, first of all, that's a lot of questions for one candidate to answer. I don't know where you begin. I mean, look, she's had a very short campaign. I think what she's trying to do is define herself in the broad brushes of who she is, where she is on big issues like reproductive rights, the economy, the environment, democracy, that kind of thing. I think the broadest of brushes is that she's an alternative to Donald Trump. And what she has done over the last 2-3 months is try to make herself acceptable. She has redefined herself. She has reintroduced herself to some degree, and I think has been effective if you look at, between the convention, between the debate performance, between the picking of Tim Walz and a number of other things. But I think really the last 6 weeks of this campaign, or 5 weeks of the campaign, is where, I mean, ultimately that kind of journey is going to be defined one way or the other.
I did not get to abortion like I wanted to. So everybody go out there, go to Washington Post, go to Republicans flee from abortion restrictions in final weeks of campaign. That is Ashley Parker's latest piece on that subject. We're going to have a little bit more later on something that happened out of California with the Attorney General on this.